TCL began the 2025 TV year for all of us with the very early release of the QM6K Quantum Dot Mini LED. And as amazing as the QM6K was, all you could ask about was the QM7K. Well, it's everything the QM6K was, but more. Up next.
I've seen things people wouldn't believe.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Thank you so much for joining me. As I mentioned, the QM6K really kicked off the TV year for many of us. It was out about a month and a half before anyone else released their TVs or even announced their TVs. But with all of the hype and praise the QM6 got, which it is an excellent TV, all you guys could ask about, well, if it's that good, how good is the QM7K gonna be? It is better in every single way. More zones, brighter, better build quality, better sound quality. It's absolutely gorgeous. Without further ado, let's check out the TCL QM7K Quantum Dot Mini LED. Thank you so much for watching. All right, guys, let's do it. TCL QM7K Quantum Dot Mini LED with the QM6K looking on. Right on the box, you see one of the biggest differences between the QM6K and QM7K is the audio. Now with a Bang & Olufsen system, you have all the different specs and the NFL trademark that TCL is very proud of. The reason why I want to show you the unboxing of the QM7K, because very much like the QM6K, it's packaged very well. And though TCL is trying to shed this value price point reputation, you still get so much for the money, especially in the packaging. Now, why is that important? It's important simply for the safety of the panel being shipped to you. While that doesn't sound like a big deal, the materials in the box to keep the TVs safe do cost money. Now, a lot of other manufacturers are starting to get a little leaner on that for environmental purposes as we look at the remote and everything that comes in the box. If you have it packaged very flimsy, the TV is going to get to you damaged, which is something we just can't have. So it's great to see how well the TV is packaged, which is my primary reason for doing unboxing as we look at the stand assembly. Now the stand is mostly plastic with a few strips of metal at the bottom to attach. Let's take a quick look at one of the best features of any of the TCL higher end mini LEDs, which is the backlit remote. I'm lucky enough to have both the QM6K and QM7K here, and they share the same remote, but I love this slow brightening and the slow dimming feature. The minute you touch it, it brightens very slowly, stays on for a period of time, and when you put it down, it dims, and then if you touch it, it brightens up again, slowly extending battery life. Very comfortable remote. It is plastic, but I love the slow brightening and slow dimming of these remotes. Definitely a plus to have, again, at any price point. Every manufacturer should have a backlit remote at this point. Now, what is impressive to me is how well the TV is packaged. Now, this is all about state of mind. Is you have your typical styrofoam, but you do have the screen also covered, and it's also covered in several different layers of plastic, which are not easy to get off. But again, the TV will arrive to you safe. A lot of times with TVs being delivered either from a manufacturer like you see here, as this was sent to me by TCL, or TVs that we purchase, they can get pretty beat up when being shipped, especially smaller TVs. But a lot of care is taken into how it's packaged. You can see you have a lighter gray, like gunmetal gray bezel, plastic back, And there is the Bang & Olufsen speaker system, which is brighter and lighter in color than the QM6K, which I'll show you here. We have the Onkyo system, which are colored black, but you have two plastic backs on each TV, which you have the more textured high-end feel of the back panel of the QM7K. The bezels feel more premium. And here is the stand assembly. Now, this is a very interesting stand. I've really seen this before. You remove the cover. You can then place this on the back of the TV. It only goes one way, but if you're not careful, you may force the other way. And looking at the box doesn't really help you, so I do think you should use the instructions. You do have two different positions. Only two sets of those screws will work. You can go higher and you can go lower. So we'll do the more streamlined lower position. And then once you assemble it, you can put the cover back over to cover the screws. So this entire assembly can go on first and then screwed in at the bottom, and then you're done. Now, I think the stand could be a little easier in terms of just a center stand that goes on. As you look at the Bang & Olufsen system, love the way that like chrome metal look to the speakers. You have a detachable power cable on the right side. And then you have your 4 HDMI ports. 2 are HDMI 2.1, but what TCL does better also than anyone is the eARC is separate from the HDMI 2.1. That way you don't give one of those very valuable ports up. They're also capable of 4K 144 Hertz on those 2 HDMI 2.1. There is the base. As you can see, we have a very glossy screen, though the plastic is still on it. Remove the plastic. Now, you had different levels of plastic. This is just the final one, but there were ones down the sides, on the bezel, so it is very well protected. I do like the look of the QM7K. The stand, again, is plastic. I'd love to see that be metal. Smaller plastic bezel than the QM6K. And they have done their badging on the side of the frame of the TV, which I prefer more than how TCL used to have their name all over the TV. So just has a bit more premium feel than you see here on the QM6K, which is on the other side of the room. And though you have a more glossy screen on the QM7K, its reflection handling is a bit better. And it does look very good out of the box, but there are a few things you're going to want to change the minute you get it turned on. Now, while eco settings are very important, you want to disable those when you first turn on the QM7K, but as you can tell, brightness is at 65, even though we are in HDR. This is a very bright TV. Now, going over to adaptive brightness, you'll notice that it will dim the TV depending on your ambient light. But we are in HDR, so you're always going to want to see that at 100, especially right out of the box. So I disabled adaptive brightness. I suggest you do the same unless you like its effect. But for testing purposes and to show you guys, I want it to be as bright as possible. Right out of the box, the local dimming is unreal. Excellent local dimming, and that was one of the strengths of the QM6K. But the QM7K also does a better job in terms of peak brightness and HDR impact, something that the QM6K wasn't the best at. Now, the QM6K was an entry level to this whole high-end Halo system of TCL. Bang for the buck, it really couldn't be beat. The QM7K takes that further. It is higher end with higher end specs. It has 3 times the brightness and 5 times the dimming zones of the QM6K. You have your bi-directional 23-bit technology at play here, your Crystal Glow HVA panel, meaning the viewing angles are also very good, but the local dimming is what's going to blow you away, mixed with that brightness. Now, while they share the same AIPQ Pro processor and they're part of the same Halo control system from TCL, there are a lot of differences with the QM7K. 0 delay, transient response, different lenses, again, 3 times brighter and 5 times the zone count. And that is evident in this content from our good friend Jennifer Gala in the HDR Super Channel. There is just so much more impact overall in terms of brightness HDR impact, and the colors. The local dimming also excellent on the QM6K, but it wasn't the brightest TV. The QM7K remedies that. Much brighter, much more vibrant, more colorful, and again, better local dimming and contrast ratio. A very special thanks to the one and only Jennifer Gala and her second channel, HDR Super Channel, as most of the content seen within this video and intro is from those two channels. Check the description below for links to both channels and consider becoming a Patreon member to her main channel and download all of these amazing demos in Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. Thank you so much, Jen. Speaking of Dolby Vision, the QM7K has both HDR10, HLG, and Dolby Vision. So every major HDR format, and as far as Dolby Atmos, you have every major sound codec, including DTS-X. Now we will cover the excellent sound a little bit later in the video, but for right now, what am I seeing on screen? Firstly, the screen uniformity is excellent on this particular QM7K. We are also at 65 inches, and quickly the sizes that are available. This is where TCL also really excels. You have a 55, 65, 75, 85, 98, and there's also a 115-inch available. Now, while the QM6K was the first TV out of any TV this year, the QM7K is also really the first high-end mini LED release this year as well. And the QM7K really is in that mid-entry to high-end for TCL, and it's priced accordingly. A bit more expensive than the QM6K, but still priced reasonably for what you get. Now, in a moment, we're going to go through all of the presets, the flexibility of image, and the settings. We'll run through the settings very quickly, and you can see for yourself the different presets that are available, each one looking different from the next. And for me, the presets are very important. They are the signature of the manufacturer, the signature of the engineer tuning each TV. Which for me is very important, as this is what really separates each manufacturer from each other, as it is that engineering's interpretation of each preset. Now we'll go through the settings at twice the speed. You can slow it down if you like, but I'm simply here to show you the flexibility you have within each preset to change anything from your tone mapping, your ability to change the local dimming, brightness. There's a lot of calibration features, a lot of features also in clarity and in motion. Super important whenever you're buying a TV is how much can you alter and customize each preset to your liking, and the QM7K has a ton of options to go through. They're also very proud of their new filmmaker mode, something TCL had lacked in the past, and it is very accurate out of the box. As you can see now, we are in a completely dark room where I'll start to show what the local dimming is capable of in both black bars and slow transitions like you see here. Now, it's not the brightest TV in the world, but it is much brighter than the step-down QM6K. Another good thing that TCL does is not just incremental upgrades between different levels of their TVs, they have massive upgrades between the two and also upgrades between the year before. Though the QM7 was brighter, the QM7K is definitely more refined with definitely better local dimming and better viewing angles. You see the black bars here are completely gone, even off angle. And the transition here, what you saw with the QM6K is while it was excellent local dimming wise, the ink dropping down or the white blotches dropping down were dim and stayed dim. Here they maintain their brightness even when they fall slowly and rapidly. Now, full disclosure, the TCL QM7K is in a room with 3 of the best OLEDs in the world, and it doesn't blink. Going from OLED to mini LED used to be very daunting for a TV reviewer, and not really the case these days. The amazing changes that they'd have year after year, it's pretty jaw-dropping for what you get. You really don't have to clean the palette. You can go from reviewing a top-end OLED and then move over to a mini LED, especially at a fraction of the cost, and still be impressed. That is where they've come such a long way as a company in terms of their specs, their performance, and overall picture quality. As we show their new filmmaker mode and the very natural colors that it produces, I also love that you can almost guarantee that whatever model you're looking at performs better than last year's model in nearly every way. And you can even go to a stepped-on model like the QM6K and it'll outperform what was last year by a wide margin. Not just by brightness or just basic specs, but overall performance and elegance as we go into Dolby Vision, showing you Dolby Vision IQ, Dolby Vision Bright, and Dolby Vision Dark. Now, TCL has made big strides in terms of their processing with the AIPQ Pro processor, but for me, it's a Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus implementation that has gotten better year after year, and so far this year, it's the best it's ever been. They also have Dolby Vision gaming as well. We're here with the Spears and Munsell calibration disc checking out Dolby Vision. Now, you can check that out while I speak, but we're going to have in a few moments is the sound. We're going to go into a Jennifer Gala demo. Please turn your volume up, and we'll go through a sound demo showing you the flexibility of the sound, the features, and then a quick surround demo after that. So please turn up your volume for this portion, and I'll be back after the sound demo. My apologies if that was rather loud. What I love also what TCL does when we get into gaming is that once a console is connected, you are prompted or greeted by this, letting you know what is available and how to enable it. For some manufacturers, the game bar is actually hard to enable. You're not sure how to turn it on. But here you have the game bar at the bottom, and then you have additional information at the top. FPS, HDR, auto low latency mode, and VRR at the top. And you can customize it quite a bit. You have 3 genre choices to choose from: original, FPS, and RPG. Now, I'd love to see more presets and more customizable options. This is difficult with mini LEDs due to increased latency if you have too many of the features enabled. Here is HDIG as well, which I'll show you in a few minutes. But for me, when it comes to mini LEDs over other technologies, it's the flexibility of image that kind of goes away when gaming is enabled. And see the different ways to change the theme. But I love to have as much control over my game mode as I do in the other presets, which is very hard to do with any TV technology, let alone mini LEDs that require local dimming and other types of processing that can increase input lag or increase latency. Luckily for TCL, the game mode is gorgeous, very punchy, also being very accurate. What they've also improved on over the years is clarity of image. Now you have a max of 4K 144 Hz. You also have the ability to do 1080p at 288 Hz, which I did try in the QM6K, and I'll also feature in my upcoming QM7K gaming video, which I'll do not only on console, but on PC. But for now, we'll stay with the PS5 Pro. I love doing Ghost of Tsushima for shadow detail, and it does look excellent. The local dimming is fully intact in game mode, which is so important for not only the contrast ratio, but keeping blooming to a minimum during bright scenes and the heads-up displays that accompany so many of these titles. Now, the QM7K is excellent for console gamers, anything from 4K 60, 4K 120. Several resolutions are supported. Also, when it comes to PC gaming, as I mentioned, you have the capabilities of 4K 144 Hz. And also, as I mentioned earlier, 1080p at 288, which I had to use a very old title like Doom 3 to see if that worked, and it worked flawlessly if that's something that you want to try out. Looking at Horizon Forbidden West, we're going to get back into the menu, check out the different genre settings, see how different they look, as well as checking out HGIG. We'll start off in RPG, FPS, and original. As I mentioned prior, I'd like to see more customizable presets, especially one, say, just labeled custom, to give you more flexibility and change the image a bit more. Enabling HIG, if you look over to the clouds, I do like the difference that I see there. You'll see more detail and the brightness where it belongs versus regular dynamic tone mapping. And you can see the floating window showing FPS in the corner. I like how easy it is to enable that. Now, going into the TV settings, our goal here is to see how many of the settings for the picture preset of game mode are grayed out and which are able to be used. Gamma key, I like having it at 2.4, giving you a bit more contrast. Tone mapping, you still have the ability to switch the tone mapping, though it's not nearly as impactful as it is during the movie and sports presets. You can see that the dynamic contrast is now grayed out. I like those two being able to provide more pop, but those will add latency. You also could see the local dimming was still able to change, as you want to make sure that that is impactful. And here you can see that it is when you enable it and disable it. Local dimming is so important for mini LEDs. Micro contrast is disabled, so a lot of those extra features you see in the regular presets are not available. That is not uncommon. Dynamic color still here, which is important, but you'd like to see some more of those features, something you can toggle on. But again, it is challenging for mini LEDs to continue showing those features and not increase latency and input lag. Overall, very happy with the gaming performance. As we check out some SDR, the SDR brightness was also quite good in gaming, and also SDR in regular content was also excellent. Overall, really like the QM7K. Also like where TCL's upscaling is also much better year after year. Their processing is definitely improving. In closing, the TCL QM7K Mini LED is an easy recommend. Now, it's a bit more expensive than the QM6K, but it's also better in each and every way than that also excellent, more value-based TV. Now, TCL is looking to be more than just a value brand, and they are getting there with their image quality, specs, build quality, and also their sound quality and backlit remote. The anti-glare is also very good for a glossy panel. Easy recommend for the QM7K, and as I mentioned earlier, big jumps year after year for TCL. I'm Brian, this is Tech Therapy. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. Love you guys. Take care.